future scenario, the precedent would be set. The sole experience with implementation of the act thresholds and interventions that could render another implication unnecessary. The second reflection I have is that in the emergency room, every now and then, there could be a violent incident in the department, one where prevention may not have worked, where attempts at de-escalation are clearly overwhelmed. In such cases, we would call in the RCMP, and on such occasions I would never be so glad as to see our friends in uniform. I felt a little the same way yesterday, after the previous 3 weeks, some of which I have spent with joy, and I felt grateful and proud of the professional way that our combined police forces all around the country, empowered and reinforced under the emergency act, were able to de-escalate and end the occupation without significant violence. So I want to thank all those brave men who helped resolve this crisis. I know that many have expressed concern about the way that policing failed in the initial weeks of this occupation, and how the response to this particular, mostly white person seems different from police responses to recent past indigenous protests. I want to know that I share these concerns and other concerns about how this crisis was initially handled, and perhaps even enabled by local police. But I also appreciate the professionalism and successful end to this siege without violence, a testament again to the ability to act with sufficient numbers of coordination and possible escalations of the emergency. I also want to thank all our essential workers and truckers who have held boots all over the continent throughout this pandemic. Our healthcare workers in both public health and healthcare could even hardly see another light in the tunnel or preparing for whatever lies ahead. Indeed, to all citizens who have stepped up and contributed to our collective journey through this pandemic. I thank you all, and I look forward to working with all members of this house on standing up for peace, order, and good government. We have more than enough ahead of us to accomplish together. And that's all. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Questions or commentaires?
Speakers, thank you for the speech from the honorable member. A number of speakers, earlier speakers, made the point that the measures under the Emergency Act are temporary in nature. Yet the Minister of Finance just the other day said that some of the provisions dealing with financial services, organizations, banks, and credit unions, and perhaps crowdfunding platforms will become permanent. I wonder if the member has a comment about that. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yukon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the question from the member opposite and also from my neighbouring province. And I want to again come back to the limitations set around this act, temporary in nature, limited in scope, and under a high degree of parliamentary scrutiny, including this debate, the setting up of a parliamentary committee, and a sunset provision. So I think there are many checks and balances embedded in this act. Thank you.
The honourable member for Drummond. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Our colleague from Yukon in his speech said that the occupation was over in Ottawa. And indeed, thanks to the excellent efforts of law enforcement groups over the weekend, well, if this occupation is over, what is the point of this Emergencies Act? And if this government still thinks that we need an Emergencies Act when a crisis like this one is for all practical purposes over, well, I hope that this country never has to go to war with a government like this one.
Merci pour la question.
I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. I would just like to say that the situation is under control for the moment. And that additionally, these provisions are temporary. We are waiting. We are waiting to determine whether we will continue, whether we're waiting to see when it will not be necessary to use this act anymore. But it is certainly not up to me to say right now whether it is now no longer necessary or how long it will be necessary. But what I can say with confidence is that we have all the necessary tools and resources to ensure that this use of the act is brought appropriately to an end.
Our member for Sandwich Grove Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's really a privilege and honor to speak with this member from the Yukon. His background, and I'm tempted to ask him questions about where he thinks we are now in the pandemic that he referenced in his speech, but I want to stick to the Emergencies Act. This member clearly is someone who looks for evidence-based solutions. I want to ask him if, looking at the evidence, he truly believes there was no other way to deal with the so-called freedom convoy other than access to the Emergencies Act.
L'honorable député du Yukon.
Madam Speaker, it's an honor for me to have a question from a member, the member from Sandwich Gulf Islands, who I have a great admiration for. So thank you very much for the question. And I'm confident in all that I have learned and all that I have read and discussed, and looking through the steps that were taken, that this was the right move at the right time. And I harken back also to what I said, that there was a ticking clock, and at some point, one could wait, one could have many other options on the table that are all going to take time. So I think timeliness is part of the decision making here, and I think it was appropriately scaled, and followed the appropriate steps. I do believe it was the only recourse at this time.
France, questions et commentaires? The Honorable Brandt himself.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we want to say thank you to my honorable member from Ukraine, whose thoughtful views. And I'm also thankful that appropriate measures are being taken to ensure safety and security. Before we are hearing about limited police enforcement capabilities, now we are hearing from law enforcement, and these additional supports are helping to bring this matter to a peaceful end. Does this honorable member agree that Emergency Act is helping bring this unlawful protest to the end?